Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into something truly mind-bending from Google DeepMind. It's called Genie 3, and its promise is as simple as it is massive, building entire, interactive worlds, not from code, but from just a few words.
So, just for a second, imagine this. You dream up a world, maybe it's a cyberpunk city, soaked in neon rain, or a peaceful forest with a little path that winds through the trees. Now, what if you could speak that world into existence, making it a real, playable 3D environment just by describing it?
Well, it might sound like something straight out of science fiction, but it's very real. This is exactly what Google's brand new AI Genie 3 is built to do. And it's not just a small step forward, this is a foundational leap in how we think about creating and even interacting with virtual spaces. All right, so let's really get into the details. What exactly makes Genie 3 so revolutionary? Okay, so at its very core, Genie 3 is being hailed as the first general-purpose interactive world model. That word interactive is key. You feed it a text prompt, and it doesn't just spit out a static image or a canned video. No, you get a playable world in real time. We're talking a nice, smooth 24 frames per second. And here's the real kicker. That world stays consistent. It actually remembers what you've done for several minutes. And we're not talking about some blurry, low-res simulation. The jump in quality here is huge. These worlds are generated in 720p, which is detailed enough to make the interaction feel, truly meaningful. That all sounds absolutely incredible, but it begs the question, how does it actually work? How does an AI build a persistent, playable world basically from scratch? The magic, if you want to call it that, is in its auto-regressive architecture. Now that sounds complex, but think of it like an artist painting a landscape one single brushstroke at a time. Genie does something pretty similar. It generates the world frame by painstaking frame. And to decide what that very next frame should look like, it looks at everything. Your input, like when you press forward, and all the frames that came before it. It just repeats that process over and over, many times a second, creating the seamless illusion of a continuous, responsive world. And this frame-by-frame process led to a totally fascinating and completely unplanned discovery, something they're calling emergent memory. The researchers at DeepMind didn't explicitly program this in. The AI just figured it out. It learned to remember what's off-screen. So you can walk away from an object, go around a corner, come back a minute later, and boom, it's still there. It's a surprisingly powerful ability that just emerged from the design. So how does an AI learn something like physics without a physics engine telling it the rules? Simple. It watches a ton of videos. Genie 3 was trained on over 200,000 hours of public internet videos. It learned the intuitive rules of our world, how things are supposed to move and fall and interact, just by being a really, really dedicated observer. And when you put it side by side with its predecessor, you really see what a staggering leap this is. Genie 2, it could only really hold a world together for maybe 20 seconds, and at a much lower resolution. Genie 3 boosts that coherence to several minutes at 720p. But honestly, the biggest difference is that last point. It's the jump from just generating a video to creating a truly interactive world that you can exist in. This is all really fantastic technology, but what's it for? What's the point? Well, that brings us to what DeepMind believes is the killer application for Genie 3, creating the ultimate AI playground. Take a look at this command here. This is not a prompt for Genie to create a world. This is an instruction given to a different AI agent that is living inside a world that Genie created. This proves that these generated worlds are consistent and detailed enough for another AI to actually understand and navigate some pretty complex, multi-step tasks.
And that right there is the primary goal. It's all about training what's called embodied AI. Think robots, autonomous cars, AI that needs to act in a physical or simulated physical space. Training them in the real world is incredibly slow. It's super expensive, and frankly, it can be really dangerous. Genie 3 offers a way around that. A potentially infinite supply of safe, scalable, and totally unique digital training grounds.
And this is where it gets even more powerful. Genie 3 has this wild feature called promptable world events. So picture an AI agent, it's in the middle of a task, and a researcher can just type in a command like, make it start raining, or add a herd of deer, and the world changes on a dime, instantly. This feature is an absolute game changer. Why? because it lets researchers create endless what-if scenarios, right on the fly. You can test an agent's adaptability in ways that would be completely impossible in the real world. Want to see how a self-driving AI reacts when a herd of deer suddenly appears on the road? Or how a rescue bot handles a structure that starts to collapse? With this, you can safely test those really dangerous edge cases again and again, essentially building a custom curriculum to help the AI learn way faster.
Now, with the ability to create playable worlds just from a text prompt, the obvious next question is about the gaming industry. I mean, is this the beginning of the end for traditional game engines like Unreal or Unity?
Well, some of the heavy hitters in the industry certainly seem to think so. NVIDIA's senior AI scientist, Jim Fahn, flat out called this technology Game Engine 2.0. And you can see why. The idea that you could generate a prototype for a game level in a few seconds instead of a few months, that's a massive potential disruption for how games are made.
But we should probably pump the brakes a little bit. Genie 3 has some very real limitations right now. The interaction time is only a few minutes, which is nowhere near long enough for a full game. Its intuitive physics, while super impressive for what it is, can't hold a candle to a dedicated engine. And the action space is pretty limited. It's mostly just moving around and looking. So, for now, it's much better to think of this as a powerful new tool for developers, not a full-on replacement.
Okay, so for our last section, let's zoom all the way out. What does a technology like Genie 3 mean in the grand scheme of things, in the big race to build artificial general intelligence, or AGI?
What we're seeing are really different philosophies, different paths up the same mountain. While a lab like OpenAI has been laser-focused on scaling up language and reasoning models, DeepMind is clearly making a huge bet that embodied intelligence, an AI that can act and learn in a simulated physical world, is a critical and complementary path toward AGI.
A DeepMind researcher, Jack Parker Holder, made this really powerful comparison to AlphaGo's famous Move 37. That was this creative, totally alien, game-winning move that no human grandmaster had ever even thought of. And his point is that embodied AI, it hasn't had its Move 37 moment yet. But a tool like Genie, which allows an AI to experience millions of different scenarios, that could be the thing that finally unlocks those novel, unexpected, and truly brilliant behaviors for an AI in the physical world.
Which really leaves us with this one big final thought. Genie 3 gives an AI an infinite sandbox, a universe of its own to practice in, to fail in, and ultimately to learn in. The big question now is, after all that training, what will be its Move 37 moment? Not in a game, but out here, in our world.